Hi, my name is Bob Hill, and I'm the president of the Church of Scientology, Mission of Riverdale, at 308 Broadview Avenue in Toronto. Now, on this particular Sunday service, I'm going to be taking up the subject of drugs and toxins and how they affect your body. Now, the reason why I'm doing it is more or less to bring home the reality of what these things can do to you. Recently, a good friend of mine called me, and he was distraught because he had lost his son from an overdose of drugs, basically. And the guy was 35 years old, so I thought, okay, today I'm going to take up this topic. It's a bit touchy because drugs are so prevalent in our society. Now, the information I'm going to give you comes from a book that L. Ron Hubbard wrote, and it's called Clear Body, Clear Mind. And it takes up the entire subject of drugs and toxins in the system and what you can do about it. So toxic substances, pollutants, pesticides, chemicals, and preservatives, they're all part of living in this modern society, yet they prevent your clear thinking and your ability to absorb life. Now, from the reference in the book, Clear Body, Clear Mind, Toxins versus Thinking chapter, I'm going to read you something. A toxic substance is a term which has been used to describe drugs, chemicals, or any substances shown to be poisonous or harmful to an organism. The word toxic comes from the Greek word toxikon, which originally meant a poison in which arrows were dipped. So some of the things you're putting in your body, in the old days, arrows would have been dipped in it to poison you when you got shot with the arrow. The human body is made up of certain exact chemicals and chemical compounds, and complex chemical processes go on continuously within it. Now, keep that in mind. We're referring to the body is made up of these chemicals, not the being. Okay? Some substances, such as nutrients, air, and water, are vital to the continuation of these processes and for maintaining the body's health. So you need some substances, they need to go in there and to keep the body healthy. Some substances are relatively neutral when entered into the body, causing neither benefit nor damage. Toxic substances are those which upset the body's normal chemical balance or interfere with its chemical process. Some of them can wreak havoc, blocking or preventing vital body functions and making the body ill or even killing it, such as a drug overdose. Detoxification would be the action of removing a poison or a poisonous effect from something, such as from the body. There has been an enormous volume of material written on the subject of toxic substances, their reported effects, and the prospects for their handling. Examples abound in publications and news reports. Unfortunately, the current environment is becoming permeated with these life-hostile elements. So, life-hostile would be something that is hostile towards the living operation of the person. Drugs are actually harmful to the living part of the person. Now, if you talk to someone who has been taking drugs Some will tell you, oh, they're fantastic, I don't feel anything. Well, that's not good that you don't feel anything. Or some will tell you that, well, I take these drugs because I can't handle my emotions. The problem is the drug itself does not resolve the handling of the emotion. It simply shuts it off. The real problem which is causing it is still there and will continue to be there. And of course, the person becomes dependent on the drug. Or the person that will tell you, in order for me to have a good time at a party, I got to take a drug. I got to smoke pot, or I got to drink alcohol, or I have to take cocaine. Well, why not be able to go to the party and have a good time without having to have a drug take over for you and predict your emotions? It is possible. So drugs, radioactive waste, pollutants, and chemical agents of various types are all a part of the scene, and apparently more and more prevalent as time goes on. According to studies, even some of the things that are put in a can of peas or a can of soup are considered to be toxic substances. They are preservatives, and the action of a preservative is to impede decay. Yet, digestion and cellular action are based on decay. In other words, those things might be great for the manufacturer as they preserve the product, but they could be very bad for the consumer. So if you ate enough of these things with preservatives in them, your stomach doesn't digest the food because the preservative is stopping the actual decay of the product. That's interesting, isn't it? So you're eating something that it's got a preservative in it. The preservative stops the decay. Your decay needs to occur in order for your body to digest, yet you have a chemical that's stopping that from happening. That's not a good thing. So, it is not that I'm on a food faddism kick or a kick against preservatives. The point is that man is surrounded by toxins. This one example alone, preservatives in food, is an example of the degree to which one can be confronted with toxic substances in the course of daily living. Putting it quite bluntly, this society at this time is riddled with toxic substances. We read about it every day in the newspaper of somebody having an overdose from some drug or such, or somebody taking a drug and going out and doing something stupid. You hear about it constantly. So there must be something about these things that is not native to the body or to the person. Now the solution that Mr. Hubbard came out with is a thing called the Purification Rundown. So I'm quickly going to give you a little briefing on the Purification Rundown. It's an action which will help you. Now any of these substances that we talked about reportedly has the potential of remaining in the system. The most likely place for a toxic substance to lock up is in the fatty tissue. It has been said that in middle age and past middle age, a body's ability to break down fat lessens. So here we have apparently a situation of toxic substances locked up in fatty tissue, and the fatty tissue is not actually getting broken down, and so such toxic substances could accumulate. You've heard the term flashback. A person has taken a drug such as LSD or even marijuana, and it is the actual drug, the toxin, is stored in the fatty tissues in their body. Well, suddenly they've quit taking the drug, or they weren't taking the drug, they have a flashback. All that's happened is some of the toxin has been released back into their system, and they feel the same effect that they did when they took the drug, because in essence they're getting the drug back into their bloodstream. You got it? That's a pretty interesting data. So the idea, now these drugs, as you know, they do block your ability to think clearly. So if you got them stored up in your system and you haven't flushed them out, it blocks your thinking. You could have someone who's incredibly aesthetic, and when I mean aesthetic, I mean an incredible artist, and they got onto drugs, and there's lots of examples of it. Big musicians start taking drugs, and all of a sudden their music just falls apart. They can't produce the way they used to with their music. The drug is blocking their ability to operate. It's interesting. Now, Mr. Hubbard says this: my interest in these somewhat brutal truths was not born only out of an objective to resolve the physical ills of individuals. Rather, it was a continuation of my initial research involving the freeing of man as a spirit and handling on this route any barriers needing to be resolved. So how could that be? Well, basically these toxins, drugs, toxins in the environment, by trapping the person into that drug state or chemical state, it stops the spiritual being from being released. So even though the person may stop taking the drug and stop taking the toxin, they're not like 100% released, and they find themselves rolling back into those times. Whereas with this purification rundown, it could be called a long-range detoxification program. While it is addressed primarily to the handling of drug residues lodged in the body, it is possible that there are many toxic substances which the body accumulates, which the program may accelerate getting rid of. If the purification program can be used to salvage even a part of a civilization sick from the onslaught of drugs and other toxic substances, then perhaps there's hope for all that civilization. You got it? So this program actually helps with that. Now, to give you an idea of how it works, I'm going to read you the basic steps. Running is done to get the body circulating deeper into the tissues where toxic residues are lodged, and thus act to loosen and release the accumulated harmful deposits and get them moving. That's number one. So you just do some running. Number two, very important then, is that the running is immediately followed by sweating in the sauna to flush out the accumulations which have now been dislodged. So the running gets the circulation going, gets things flowing, dislodges things. It's important to immediately then go into the sauna and sweat out those toxins. Number three, regular nutrition and supplemental nutrition in the form of megavitamin and mineral dosages and extra quantities of oil are a vital factor in helping the body to flush out the toxins and to repair and rebuild the areas that have been affected by the drugs and other toxic residues. Okay? So that's done in combination with the purification rundown. And when you're on the rundown, you'll be given every day a list or an idea of what vitamins you should be taking and in what amounts, which helps you to flush out the stuff out of your system. Number four, a proper schedule is needed with enough rest. It's mandatory, as the body will be undergoing change and repair throughout the program. Okay? So that's the solution to these toxins and drugs that get into your system. Some of you may have done this program already, and some of you may not have done it. Or you may know somebody who this program would greatly benefit. Even if they don't go any further than doing their purification rundown, you're doing them a great service by having them do it. Anyone can do this program. It's essential to their survival, and it will help them increase their life. Now, I've given you quite a bit of data today on this. I'm hoping that for those of you that have never done the program, you'll listen and you'll get yourself onto it quickly. My greatest hope is that you would make a decision to stop using harmful drugs and alcohol, and try and clean yourself up. Now, you could say, well, how can you say that? Well, I can tell you, in the past, I have done drugs and I have drank alcohol. I've done this program, and it's made a very large difference in how I live and how I operate. So I'm asking you to do that too. You can get a copy of this book. You'll see an address at the end of this video. You can get a copy of the book, Clear Body, Clear Mind. Read it, duplicate it, understand it, give yourself a little bit of TLC, and you'll find you'll do much better in life. All right? Thank you very much for listening to the seminar today and the briefing. And next week, I'll be back with more tools to help you in your life. Thank you.